Hello, welcome back to CS170 fall section. We're into week 9 and doing Excel. So last lecture, I kind of just gave a little bit of stuff on logistics, but I want to just point out one more thing. If you look at the list of the different things you can get to here, one of them is the media gallery. So some people might look at that and say, oh, those are just the links of all the YouTube videos, which are like all down here. But actually, you go to it and it's the same thing as on the left-hand side where you'll see like media gallery. You'll see all the videos are just kind of organized by week, right? So week 1 all the way up to week 9 here. And for the most part, hopefully you can see like a little bit about what that video is going to be about. So it's an easy way for you to kind of reference to like the particular week and a particular topic and look up whatever you need to look up. Okay. So we'll come back to doing the spreadsheets here. So over here, if you remember for the last lecture, there's like a sample 1 XLS. I'm actually going to be working with it live here, and then I'm just going to upload it. So some of this stuff kind of has some extra stuff from before. I was messing around with this a little bit. So I'll probably play around with some of this a little bit. Obviously, like this sheet here is not that much to it. So you want to just kind of put this up on your own sheet just so you have something to work with. I think that might be a good idea anyway. But after I'm done with the, the lectures, I'll actually upload this sample 1 XLS into the modules resources. Okay. And if you remember where I said that was, over here, modules. So you'll see all these, right? We have the example 1 XLS. That's what your TA should be referring to when they do their recitations. Okay, but I'll upload something here when I'm done with this sample XLS here. Okay, so anyway, let's get at it. So, you remember what we talked about in the last lecture about Excel sheets, talking about uses for financial purposes, let's say for accounting, inventory, whatever, right? Financial analysis. So the way you might look at it is basically like this grid. So you can see a grid here, right? So this Microsoft Excel. Some of you may use like the Google Sheets or whatever. For the purpose of this class, just to exercise like all of the different types of function, which Microsoft Excel has a lot of Excel's function built into it. And it's even more so on the desktop version versus the the web version. Okay, so as Rutgers students, all of you have access to this. So you have the free license. So I would encourage you to download it onto your computer, whether it's a PC or a Mac. You'll get the desktop version as a Rutgers student, and you'll get all the different functionality that comes with that. Okay. All right, so let's get going here. So basically, I guess your starting point is you would look at things as a 2-dimensional grid, okay, rows and columns. And, each cell can have, these entries in here, right? Just like if I'm looking over here, right? So in this case, remember I was talking about inventory. So we have, let's say pants, scarves, shirts, shoes. We have a price, we have a quantity. Can't see if I got that a little bit like that. You got your price, and then we have some discounts that we can apply here. You have your discounted price. We charge taxes. Then you calculate the total due, and maybe we have some shipping going on here, right? We're shipping it out to someone. Okay. So before I get into that, maybe we just take a quick look. And you remember at the beginning of the class, we talked about Microsoft products, but it could be a lot of products where you have a suite of stuff and they have certain common behavior. So this is one of those type of things, right? If you go into Microsoft Word or whatever, you'll see similar types of things here where you can create a new spreadsheet here if you want to. Here's your local or not local, recently accessed files here, or you want to do a new one, you want to open up the old one, or existing one, I should say. If you want to export it, if you want to share, right? If I want to do a share, maybe I want to attach the sheet itself, maybe I want to convert it to a PDF, um, all those type of things. So that's like mailing it out and stuff like that. And those are the common things you'll probably do, right? If you're doing this in a shared environment, there might be some other extra things, but let's kind of keep that simple for now. As you can see here, there's some extra bits here for your education or templates and whatnot. You can explore those on your own when you get a chance. Okay. And then across the top here, you'll see different things here. I'm just clicking through it really quickly here. But a lot of times you start off at home and you can see under home, like all these different things you can do. And we'll walk through a lot of these different things here shortly. You can do inserts, right? You can see things like this, right? A lot of times you might be working with charts, which is right over here. Okay, so you can insert new charts. Whenever you think about Excel, a lot of people think about pivot tables. But even like a regular flat table, doing data filters or whatever, that's pretty useful too. Page layout, not really sure I do this too much, right? This is where if you kind of pretty things up a little bit and have it for printing and whatnot. Not sure I do too much with this part. I'm mostly around here to do things with charts and data filters and whatnot. I mentioned formulas before. I mean, there's just like a bunch of formulas here, right? You can see all of these, like you can see financial, right? Look how many formulas there are there. And we'll go through that in a later lecture about how to work with formulas, create your own formulas and whatnot. Some of these comparison type of stuff, like these logics, like if error, might seem familiar to you since we've done stuff like that, conditional processing in JavaScript. Here's some other functions here, things to process off of days or calendars. Your usual math type of functions here, right? And don't worry, we'll be going through a lot of these different things here, but it's just like a huge number of functions that you can work with here. And we'll go through that. Data, right? This is pretty common. So you see like what I did here in terms of filter, right? That's using this filter. That's why it's kind of darkened up over here a little bit. But you don't have to do that. You can do stuff with like sorting over here. You remember I mentioned the what if type of stuff. So you have your forecasting or scenario analysis, I would call it. Yeah. There's some of this type of stuff that's more kind of closer to what you might be using in Microsoft Word or whatnot. But you have spell checking and whatnot, right? On the view part, just some nice things here. Probably the most common thing I might do, especially with large spreadsheets, might be doing something like with freeze panes and stuff like that. Maybe for this lecture, I do a little bit to kind of make this a little bit bigger. So maybe people can see a little bit better. So maybe let me make this 150, something like that. Makes it bigger, okay? All right, so let's get back to here. Oops, I scroll past this guy here. All right, so here's different things here. You can do like some bold, you can do some wrapping of your text, you can expand the column width. You have your cell entries, you can do a couple bits of formatting there. And you can see that up here, right? You can see like dollar signs and whatnot. So let me go over here and let me play around with that a little bit. So here, all right, I've already bolded this, right? So you can see like the B here for bold. I can also do right mouse here, and you can see like this pull down. I have all kinds of different options here. And let me see here. Format cells. Right. I can't make this bigger, but this is kind of what it pops up. I hope you can see it on the screen, especially when the YouTube converts it to the high def view. Here, this is just kind of general, which, right, these are text, right? If I highlighted numbers, you get a little bit more things to play around with. But this is like text, so there's not a huge amount you can do with it. You have your alignment here. You can see we've got it centered here. And then on your verticals at bottom, that means like this, right? You can see the pants is like centered in here and it's aligned to the bottom. I mean, let's say I centered this too. Okay, and then I apply it and you can see it went more to the center there. Okay, not a biggie, it's just like sort of making things a little bit more pretty here. Let me go to numbers that may be a little bit more interesting. Instead of doing the right pull down, I could do the right pull down. You go into format cells. I'm going to work off of the top here. You can see here with like accounting and whatnot is under the numbers category, right? I can change into currency. I'm going to just leave it like this. You can do stuff with commas. Let's say this was like $1,000, 1043 for whatever reason, right? So you can put commas here, but you don't need to. But I guess when you look at this from looking at this as a currency type of thing, then that would make sense, right? Well, let me fix this. I'm going to make this back to 43 again. And let me do this, and then let me do format. Okay, so in the number here, I'm just going to make this general. Right, so like this is almost like the default. Like when you have like a number and you didn't do anything with it, and you didn't tell it whether it's a currency or anything like that, this is kind of the default here. Now, if I want to maybe show 2 decimal places, let's say, then, well, I just showed it to 3. We showed it to 2, like that. Okay, so you can see the left arrow here, right arrow here. Okay, so you can see I can keep on making it get bigger and bigger, right? And then I can make it shorter, almost to the point where I just can make it a whole number, right? Like this. Okay, it's almost like in the JavaScript function for the number, you can make it 2 fixed for 2 decimal places, let's say. Well, that's what this would look like here. Okay. One thing to note, I'm not going to do it on this one because these are prices. Let me just make this a price and leave it at that. Right, so that's fine. So you got like your price here. I'm formatting it as a currency essentially. But let's say I did something like this. I did 0.25. So, well, actually, I don't want that to be a currency. So format, I'm just going to make this a number. Okay, so it's 0.25. Now, if I do this, you can see it becomes 25%, right? Because 0.25 is 25%, right? So some people, when they look at that, they might say, oh, that looks like a 25. So I would say the percentage, when I apply percentage, that's just like a view. Your real number is still 0.25, okay? So if I did something like this, let's say, let's just make it a round number, 100. And then I say equals this, multiply by this, then you get 25 because that's what it is. 25% of 100 is 25. Okay, and I've left this as a currency again. So let me just make it a number. So it's 25. Okay, that's what that is. But if I don't make this a number, I mean a percentage, it's really 0.25. So when you say what is the actual value that the computer is storing, it's really 0.25. So that's the point here. Percentage, you can almost look at percentage as just something for displaying for people to look at it. From a computer standpoint, they don't see it as a round number 25. They'll see it as 0.25. So it's something to be mindful of. A lot of people get tripped up on this in the exam and stuff like that. Okay. So be mindful of that, right? Let me clear the contents here. All right, so I'm not going to go into a huge amount of super detail on this because on the teaching docs for the TAs, they should also be going into these at a very basic level, right? So they'll tell you like, what's a row, what's a column. If I look at this point here, how do I refer to it? You can see it's like a little bit shaded in darker, right? So this is a B, this is 4. So you refer to this cell location as a B4, right? If I highlight this, this is a range of cells. So how do I refer to it? I'll refer to it as A3 and then colon, and then it'll be B6, right? So that's your range of cells that I've highlighted here, okay? There's all kinds of different basic stuff here. I can do something like a copy and paste. So I can do a copy, and then I can do a paste. This is, you can't really see it on my screen, but I'm doing it as a right mouse. If you're doing it on a MacBook, I guess you're using 2 fingers to hit the pad to select it and copy it, paste it. Here, you have some different things where you can paste the actual values itself, like this. You can see the V here. If I just did it as the default, it actually will paste the formula. If there's a formula, it will adjust the formula accordingly if it's relative reference, okay? And I'll be going into that also. So that's why you can see just copy the formula here. So there's different ways to do your pasting, right? But your default is just to copy the value and the formula that goes along with it. Of course, the formula, if it gets adjusted because it's like a relative formula, the value will actually change, okay? So I'm not going to dwell too much about those basic functions because, like I said, I know the teaching docs for the TAs is covering at that detail level. I've looked at those myself. So you'll be covering all those details. So hopefully we'll hit on those points there. So I won't spend a huge amount of time there. So we did currency, text, percents, whole numbers, right? So these are like whole numbers here. You can't really have like a 2.5 pair of pants or something like that. So that's that. All right, so we do some changing your column width, copy and paste, copy and paste of your contents, formatting clear cells, delete rows. Okay, fine. We can do all of these. So I'll do these and I'll cut this video and then we'll move on. I'll make another video. Okay, so we'll call it basic spreadsheet operations, right? So if I want to insert a column, I'm here. Let's say I select this column here and then I do a insert. Actually, I don't want to paste any new values in here, right? So here, let's do insert, and then I have a new column here, right? You see up here at the top, you can do undo here. That's what this little arrow means. So I can do undo, okay? But I can also play it forward too, right? I can redo the insert, just like that, right? So if you mess something up, you can just revert it. You don't have to load up an old copy of this or something. Likewise, I do on the rows, I can do the same thing. We can undo it here, like so. What are the other options we should do? So clear cells, okay. So let's say for the sake of argument, I do this. If I do a clear cells, there's a difference between doing clear contents and me just going in here and putting a space, okay? You don't quite see it right now, but later on when I do some functions that will be looking for blank spaces, and you treat similar to like the JavaScript where I see a number, you've had some problems to look at variables as strings versus numbers. It's the same thing in Excel, right? So if I go in here and I put a space in here, it looks like it's an empty cell. It's not really an empty cell, right? It's a blank string in there, right? And so when you do some types of functions that assume certain things are numbers or whatnot, it will cause some problems, okay? So if you really want to clear a cell, what you do is here, and you have clear contents like that. So I clear contents. Of course, all of these other formulas that are dependent on that quantity, they all get messed up now, right? So let me revert my change since I messed that up. And we're back to where we were before. Okay. Let me see what other things I should be doing. We did percentage, currency, text, numbers, decimals. So we did the clear of the contents that I just demonstrated. We have insert rows, delete rows. Here, let me do a delete here. Boom. Delete. And I took this out. I broke all these references. So let me get that back. Boom. Okay. And let's see what else we have here. Changing the column width, right? So here, I can do that. Most often you're changing the column width because, you know, you want to display something, right? It's getting cut off, but you can do this too. Something like that. I can do multiple ones, right? So I can do this and this. So now I've selected 2 columns. I did a control select to do that. And then I can do the resize, and it actually resizes both columns like that, all in one shot. So I don't have to do it multiple times, right? See, when you see this little hash right here, all that means is that it just doesn't have enough space to display the value that's in there. So you just make it wider. Now, another thing you can do here, let's say I did this, let's say it's not enough space. Another thing you can do is you can see how it create like these double arrow going left and right here. I can do a double click like this, and then it automatically sizes appropriately so you can display this properly. So there's a couple little tips and tricks to maneuver around Excel, you know, help with the formatting and displaying of it. When I was playing around with this, you can see this. And I don't worry about that for now. I'm not supposed to cover that for this part of the lecture. I'll cover that in one of my future lectures of, you know, creating like these filters and stuff like that. Okay, did I cover everything here? Yeah, change your column width, blah, blah. Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to stop it here, and then I'm going to move on to cut another video in a second. All right, thank you.